leading us through the delegate selection, but it's an important thing, and I'm excited to be doing it. So I've been an alternate, and I have been at the state level, and I've been a state representative. So I've kind of gone through the process twice. So this will be my third time, but it is kind of weird. And I will be helped today by Terry Mannies, who is a precinct committee person here in Douglas County, former candidate for office, and also currently the secretary of Congressional District 2. So she brings a lot of expertise, as well as Noreen Spears, who is part of our executive committee and our communications director for the Douglas County Dems. So they will be helping. And I do see that we are getting some additional people coming on, so that'll be great. I'm gonna just say a few words, and then I'm gonna turn it over to these pros, and they will present some of an overview of the structure and the steps involved in governing the Kansas Democratic Party. And then we also will have question and answer time at the end. A couple of things that I want to point out that just to keep in mind, if you are going to be at the meeting next Saturday, where the precinct committee people will be the people voting, and if someone is not a precinct committee person, but they want to be a candidate, they need to let me know. And if you are going to be attending, you need to let me know. And anyone who wants to be a candidate should let me know. The reason for that is on Zoom, we're gonna be electing a lot of people. There's 34 vacancies to fill, and that doesn't count alternates, which we would like to fill. Now, I can appoint people later, but we want to get as many people through the elected process as we can. But that means that it helps us to know whether we've got a competitive primary or we've got only a few candidates. It gives us information that we need. So it is possible to nominate yourself from the floor, but really we'd love to have that information ahead of time. It will make it much, much easier for planning. Okay? The other thing I'm going to mention is that, you know, here in Douglas County, we call ourselves precinct committee people. But at the state level, the state bylaws for the Kansas Democratic Party do a lot of things that as representatives and delegates are identified as male and female. So we can't really change that because we live with their bylaws. There are some people, and Caleb is one of them here, that have been working with the LGBTQ caucus to try to modernize and clean that process up in a world that is not quite so cut and dried as the bylaws would have us believe. But if anybody has any questions or any concerns about where they might fit, just email me or text me or call me separately, and I'll be glad to go through that with you, and we will make it work. It's kind of, we might have to do a workaround, but we will make it work, okay? So those are my only two things. Please, please, please let me know what your plans are, and I will turn it over to Terry and to Noreen.
Hey guys. Okay, wait, am I?
You're fine.
No.
Yep, we can hear you.
Okay,
we
good.
Politely muting.
Yeah. Oh.
I spotlighted you.
What'd I do?
Taking over.
I took over. Terry's got spotlight. No!
Good beginning.
Just in time for the season.
Yeah, for those of you who don't know me very well, you'll come to see that slightly disheveled is what rules my life. Sneezing at the start of something is totally normal. All right, Noreen, slap up the slides. So while she's getting the slides ready, I just want to introduce myself. For those of you who haven't met me, my name is Terry Mannies. I ran for the seat in District 45 against Tom Sloan back in 2016. Before I did that, I had absolutely zero involvement with anything Democratic Party. So it was a very quick learning curve, and I found my group. I found my peeps when I did that. So that's where I stayed and how I stayed involved. So what I've done here is Noreen and I worked on this slideshow. I would like to acknowledge down in the bottom, is that left? Yeah, that's left corner. You'll see that the content was provided by Dustin Stumbling Bear. He's a gentleman who has been involved with the Democratic Party statewide. In fact, he sits on the Central Committee right now. Anyway, so this work was all gathered by him, and I just wanted to thank him for that. Okay, so what we're gonna, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah.
Okay, I can't see anybody or anything other than the slideshow. So if anybody has any questions, my little, Noreen, you'll pass them along or just jump in. Okay. So the purpose of this slideshow is to kind of spell out a little bit what the role of the 2nd Congressional District is, or all of the congressional districts. There's 4 of them within the party, and what the vote that we are going to be taking next week does for moving you as an individual along within the, I'm going to use the word hierarchy. I don't necessarily mean it, but within the hierarchy of the Kansas Democratic Party. Okay, next slide, please. So the first thing that we are going to do is just introduce sort of the role that many of us already hold. I'm not sure how many people on this attending this presentation are precinct committee people. If you are not and you would like to be, let us know. So the first level of representation within the Kansas Democratic Party is the precinct committee people. Now this is the smallest political unit within Kansas. It's drawn up by the county clerk. We've talked about definitions, and our role as precinct committee people is to register Democratic voters and promote Democratic Party candidates within our county. Any questions so far? Is there anything on this slide that any of you have questions about? Okay, moving right along.
You know, I just wanted to say, I don't know if you're all aware, but as a PCP, if one of our legislators were to not be able to continue representing us, that the PCPs from that represented precinct actually get to vote on who the next representative will be. So John Wilson, 3 years ago, was unable to continue as our member of the House, Kansas House. And so as a local party, we got to organize a vote and brought together the PCPs from his represented precinct, and then elected the new representative. So it doesn't happen all that often, but it is kind of one of the more official things that the PCPs do. So sorry, Terry, I had to jump in.
No, thank you.
It's kind of cool.
And actually, it does happen pretty often because we just elected a county treasurer
Right.
in September. So it's an important task when it comes up, let's just say.
Yes, wonderful. Thank you, guys. Thank you so much for adding that. Okay, so another thing that the precinct committee people do, as you guys are coming to understand, is we support the county executive committee, which oversees the operations of the precincts. So again, the purpose of the slideshow is to sort of show where we are in the flow. So we have the precinct committee people, then we move up to the county executive committee that takes care of the county and county activities. And that is led by a chairperson, who in this case is the lovely Pat Willer, and supported by a vice chair, who is, I believe, the domitable Bruce Roberts. Then the county chair can appoint auxiliary officers to exist in the running of the county party. That creates the executive committee, and that meets as often as the executive committee deems necessary. Any I mean, are there any questions about the role of the county executive committee within Douglas County and your role, our role as precinct committee people and members of the party? Pat? Noreen, do you want to add anything?
Yep.
I really hate not being able to see people.
I know, I'm sorry. I can't really say much either.
Nah, it's okay. All right.
I don't have anything to add. How about if we just say that we'll butt in if we need to?
Excellent.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
On to the next. Oh, yep. On to the next slide. Okay. So this is where it gets interesting. You know what? I think I'm going to jump ahead. Noreen, can you jump ahead to the map for a minute?
Yep.
Okay. So I'm not really sure how many of you understand the way that the state is organized for congressional districts. This is what Kansas looks like. You can see that there are 4 congressional districts. There's something out west, what we call the Big First. That's 1 congressional district. We are in the 2nd congressional district. The 3rd congressional district is that little tiny piece of Wyandotte and a little bit of Miami and Johnson County. And then the 4th congressional district, mostly well, as you can see, it's South Central. Okay, so now that you have this picture in your mind, Noreen, please go back to, there we go. Yep, there we go, perfect. So the congressional districts work to get Democrats elected within Kansas, and this is the first level of work that goes on to represent us in Washington, okay? So the congressional districts have the exact same leadership structure as the county party. There is a chair, there's a vice chair, there's a treasurer, and there's a secretary. And there can be other ad hoc committees appointed by the chair who runs the who run the congressional districts. Okay. In our case, at present, the chair of the 2nd congressional district is a woman named Sherry Grogan. She ran for a seat, the State House of Representatives, this last election cycle, unfortunately did not win, and she has decided to step down. So that position will be open within the 2nd congressional district. The vice chair of the 2nd congressional district is a gentleman named Ty Dragoo. He is the head of he's the Kansas representative and the head of a group of unions. That's his job as vice chair. Then Lynn Grant is the treasurer. I don't know if she's planning on running again for the seat. And frankly, I don't know if Ty is planning on running for his seat again. And then I am the secretary. Any questions so far? Okay, so I want to take a slight detour here because really the congressional districts, their main job is to find a congressional candidate. Now, that's a lot harder than you might think it should be. The way that typically happens is that a person will display some interest to their county chair, or it'll get passed to a county chair. The county chair will then reach out to what has been Sherry Grogan, and then Sherry has a conversation, or the chair of the congressional district has a really heart-to-heart conversation with that person, and basically tries to throw as much cold water on them as they can, because it is an extremely hard process. It is an extremely expensive process. And we want to make sure we do as much vetting as we can, because we want to make sure that every candidate has a decent shot. Now, that said, someone can decide to run for the 2nd congressional district and never talk to anybody in the committee. That's their choice. But the committee's job is to help get whoever makes it through the primary to Washington. There's fundraising that goes on. We basically act like a county party for that person's campaign. Any questions?
If they wish.
Pardon?
If they wish.
Yes, if they wish.
And I think of note is what Terry said about how the party sees it working, right? That you start with your local level and you show an interest, and then someone meets with you and they tell you exactly what your life will be like for the next year. Hopefully you've reached out a year ahead of time. That doesn't always happen. You know, anyone can actually declare candidacy with the state or the county clerk and say that they're a Democrat, right? So it doesn't always happen that way, but that is how we get the best candidates. And sometimes that actually comes from the local party, right? Sometimes there's just someone who would be a great candidate, and it starts with the county party, right? Reaching out to them and saying, hey, what do you think? And then putting the name up through the non-hierarchy.
You know, and just to sort of give you an example for those of you who are interested or considering it, at one point, I don't know when it was, would have been sometime around 2019, early 2019, I guess. I thought about it. I put in some work. I managed to get a 15-minute phone call with Representative Davids out of CD3 and asked her point blank, what did you like? Do you like the job? If you were elected, you know, you've been elected, do you like the job? She said, I love the job. I hate what I had to do to get elected. And that was it. I decided at that point, if I have to do this every 2 years, I'm not doing it after talking to her. So, and I just share that with you because it's this, to be put on the 2nd Congressional District Committee, there's not a lot of, there's not a ton of responsibility on a day-to-day process, but we really do want, if you are gonna come onto the committee, we really want people to be as involved as they can, because it's a tough shot.
It's something that we will, if we can build it and we can get the people active, then, you know, we can do more. So
yeah, now go on to the next slide if you don't mind.
sorry, I keep butting.
Oh, no. The reason.
How about this one?
No, go back.
Want that one? Okay.
Yep, this is the one I want. Okay. And the reason that I bring all of that up is because the 2nd Congressional District is more than just Douglas County and more than Shawnee County. Part of what we are doing, it's the opportunity that we get to have when we're involved in CD2 is to really reach out all up and down the entire west side of the state. I love it. Being involved in CD2 has just been, I absolutely love it. There are people down in Allen County, Wilson County, Woodson County, Bourbon. They're awesome. And don't quote me on this, and they'd probably shoot me if I said it, but they often look to Douglas County because we are, you know, we're a bulwark. And so being able to be involved and help people who live in those counties it's a great feeling. I really love it. So I would urge you guys to think about this because it's a great way to get involved with the state party. You're going to meet people all up and down the state. It's a wonderful thing, I think. Okay, moving on. There, I've shared my opinion. Okay, so once we have elected the, all right, hold on. I'm not going to go there for a second. So now let's talk about the state committee. The state committee is what guides the Kansas Democratic Party at the state level, and it is divided up into 2 separate committees. The first is the executive committee, which comprises representatives from various Democratic organizations. How you get on the state executive committee, let's hold that for a second. The state general committee is made up of the executive committee and Democrats from across the state who are elected to the congressional district committee. So you can be elected to the congressional district committee whether you're a precinct person or not. From there, we will be electing people who will go on to be in the state general committee. Does that make sense? Because Okay, any questions?
It does. Terry, I'm gonna toss in a little bit just of the specifics here for us.
Please.
The Douglas County Dems have 34 positions to fill, and then 34 alternates that can be filled. And those people, the election that we have next Saturday, those are the people that are going to the CD2 convention that Terry's talking about here. And that will be, and so all of the people that are elected next Saturday are the people that will be involved in both choosing the officers for the CD2 and for choosing those delegates that will go one step further to be state representatives. We will probably be assigned a number as a county as to how many of our county people are elected. But I don't have that number yet. So we'll be surprised when at some point we'll know, but it will be fewer than the 34. But it will be a significant number because we actually have more delegates than anybody else in the CD2. Thanks.
So, okay, I see Melinda. So people can serve at the CD2 level and state, or are they exclusive? No, they are not exclusive. You can absolutely do one and the other. You can be on the seat. In order to get on the state committee, you have to, at minimum, be a member. You have to be elected to the 2nd Congressional District Committee. Once you're in the 2nd Congressional District Committee, you can do absolutely then. That's the pool from which the state general committee is drawn. Does that make sense? I see. Okay, Kate, but can you be on the state executive committee without being a, okay. All right, right. Let's go back to the state executive committee. Go forward, I think.
Yeah, I think we need.
Is that the next slide?
Yep. There we go.
Okay. Okay. So the state executive committee, I'm not gonna lie or sugarcoat it to you guys. The state executive committee is a bit of a mystery. The only people who I know that are on it are the people who've been elected state chair, state vice chair, treasurer, and secretary. And the chairpersons of the auxiliary caucuses, which we'll explain again in a second, and 2 national committee persons and state staff. But there are also other people who are invited to be on it based upon some position that they hold that we know nothing about within the community. So for example, if you are and Noreen and Pat, stop me if I'm wrong, because I could be talking out of my tush here. If you are a person who's actively involved in a certain union, then you're going to stand a much better chance of being invited to come on to the executive committee than your garden variety human being. That executive committee, I don't know anybody who's on it who's not super duper crazy involved. So one of the ways that you could get onto the state executive committee would be to become an active member of one of the caucuses. And in fact, not an active member, but a chairperson of the caucuses. Now that is what the caucuses are is a whole other slideshow presentation, which I don't even want to go down that road. Some of you have already gotten involved with the LGBTQ caucus, so you understand a little bit about how that works. Oh, I see a chat. Can you say who does the inviting? You're very cute. Is it the current executive committee? Yes, it is the current executive committee, Kate, that does the quote inviting. But that said, you can also get in through the caucuses. So the way anybody can be in a caucus, anybody can put their name in the hat to be one of our 2 committee persons that is elected to the state. Yeah, yes, Kate, it is absolutely a mystery wrapped in an enigma. You can be one of the 2 national committee persons that are nominated and elected from Kansas that then go on to the Democratic National Committee. So 2 people are nominated by this and nominated and elected by the executive, the general committee writ large. And those 2 people go on to be part of the Democratic National Committee. They are also on the state committee, the state executive committee. Now, they basically oversee how budgets are going to get spent. They do a lot of fundraising. They plan momentum. They try to keep momentum going. The executive committee works much more closely with the DNC than any other part of the sort of state machine, if you will. So before I go on to the general committee, are there any questions? Because I'm sure I made this as clear as mud about this. Noreen, Pat, please chime in.
Well, I'm not seeing any new questions pop up.
Okay.
So I think that's pretty good. And I think your advice particularly is very good, that it takes some involvement in the party. The 2 people that I know of that are national committee people, I mean, from attending meetings, I had heard one of them do a lot of talking, a lot of involvement. They've been on various committees that have written bylaws and done a variety of things. So it doesn't just sort of happen out of nowhere, because usually, there's going to be more than one person running for those things. And so a lot of it becomes sort of the recognition factor of, well, what have you done before? And, oh, I've heard him speak, or I've heard her speak. The current chair came to Douglas County and did a presentation for us once when she wasn't the current chair. So that's, you start to get to know people by doing that. But really, in terms of affecting, in terms of the best access point for people, it's first of all to be at those meetings participating. So that's where you start as a county delegate to the CD2, and then out of CD2 for some of the lucky people that go out of CD2 onward. That's the first step, because then you're at, it's like Hamilton, you're in the room where it happens. The other piece is the caucuses. A lot of good work gets done in the caucuses. So it's not just about how do you get to be influential, it's how you get work done. So I think that's something for those that are interested, and you can look, I mean, there's a Young Dems, there's a Progressives, there are a lot of different caucuses, and it's a great entry point. You don't have to be elected as a delegate or a CD2 representative to be involved in a caucus. So anybody can do that, and but definitely should look to see if there's a good fit there. That's all I got.
Yeah.
Those elected officials of the executive committee, it's like a full-time job for them too, probably more. They just, and it's volunteer, right? So I think that's also one of the reasons that you have to kind of prove that you are very, very serious, because there's a lot of good work to be done.
Well, and I'm, from practical standpoint, I'm just going to say that it may be different in bigger states. We don't live in a bigger state. If you are the chair, the vice chair, the treasurer, you pay for your own travel on this. There's no reimbursement for your time. These people are 100% financially committed with very little recompense. So you won't be surprised to know that most of the people who do this are either retired already or have access to the funds to make these trips possible back and forth across the country. Yeah. Okay. Moving on. Next slide. Okay. The State General Committee is comprised of 36 delegates from each congressional district. those are apportioned out based upon the number of votes that your county got. No, the number of voters your county had in that election that just immediately passed, which is why Douglas County traditionally gets, the only county that may get more delegates to the state committee than we do is Shawnee County, because they have more Democrats on the rolls. But if their Democrats don't vote, we all, we have either the first or second high number of delegates that get to go to the state general committee.
And this go round, it will be, we are definitely the highest. Congrats to everybody who helped on that hard fought primary. It paid off. But it will be fewer than the 34 people that we're electing. It won't be 34. It won't be the 34 people that we elect at the county level who will become 34 of the 36 delegates, because they also, each county will get represented. So it will be a significant number, and it will be probably the largest share of delegates that will become members will be from Douglas County, but definitely not everybody. So that's something to keep in mind. The election that we have at the CD2 meeting, which in this case, in this case, it'll be a Zoom meeting, but the election will be Douglas County people. When they tell us how many representatives we get to elect, then we ourselves as delegates are the ones that do that electing. And a good question from Barry and a follow-up from Melinda, but Barry, your question is how many do we have now? I think it is, I want to say, I think it's 16. That sounds kind of high.
It could be 8 and 8.
It could be 8 and 8. Okay. It could. That sounds plausible. I think 8 and 8 is right. If it's either 14 or 16.
And I am looking, guys, I'm looking online to try to find an answer to the question that someone popped up about how many delegates there are to the state general committee. I don't have an answer for you. I wish I did, but I just know that I show up and I get, well, okay, so here's the interesting.
It'll be 36 times 4 for
Yeah,
one. Yeah.
exactly.
Oh, I guess there's math on a Saturday morning. That's funny. It's not just 36 that are nominated or that are elected to go, but there's also 36 alternates.
Yep.
So, for example, I am not a full member of I'm the secretary of CD2, but I'm not a delegate to the state congressional committee, the state general committee. I am an alternate to the state general committee. Now that was by choice. I'm fine not having to be at every state general committee meeting. I'm there, and I'm an alternate, so I almost always end up getting a seat. But personally, I thought it was more important for other people who had never done it to go ahead and be elected to it. So even if you don't end up elected to the state general committee as a delegate and you end up as an alternate, you will more than likely be seated every single time that there's a meeting. Because if someone doesn't show up and we are short of nominated delegates, they just start going down the list. Oh, here we got an alternate. And Jim, I think I see you there every time. I can't remember if you're like another alternate like me or if you're elected. So it really doesn't matter. I don't think. You can end up either way and you're going to get to participate.
Yep.
Questions? More questions? Okay. Oh, and I will say, sorry, the state general committee meets during Washington Days and during Demo Fest every year. Now, when I started in 2016, I had no idea what Washington Days and Demo Fest were. So for those of you who don't know, because I'm assuming some of you may not, those are the 2 annual meetings that happen for the Kansas Democratic Party every year. One is always held in Topeka, and the other is always held in Wichita, and that cannot be changed. Those are where they are by statute. So even if we think it would be a great idea to have one out in Dodge City, too bad, so sad. It's got to stay where it is. They're great events, super wonderful. If you guys have never attended one, it's fantastic. I hope someday we'll be able to do them in person again. Okay. Any questions? Okay, moving right along.
Okay.
My 28-year-old parrot Jake says good morning. All right, so just to kind of reiterate here, in the Douglas County Central Committee, we have precinct committee people and the county party leadership. On to the next slide, please. So step 1, the Central Committee, help me out with this, Noreen, what am I missing? Step 1.
Well, we're talking about reorganization, which happens every 2 years.
Oh, right. Sorry.
So the Central Committee, which is our, which we've already said is our PCPs and our chair and vice chair.
Yes.
Yes,
We elect,
they meet.
and then we elect the county executive committee and delegates to the congressional district. Step 2.
Step 2,
That's where we're going now.
the congressional district. Yes.
Committee.
Sorry.
Yeah, it's all good. Give me a second to read the slide here. And then on to step 3.
So then from there,
We meet.
right. So then they elect people to go to the state general committee, and the state general committee meets biannually to vote, which is, you've already covered all of this with Washington Days and
Right.
yeah. Okay.
On to the next slide.
All right.
So just to reiterate, Douglas County, we have you guys, precinct committee people, and non-precinct committee people, the county chair and vice chair. They go to the 2nd Congressional District, which is what we're voting on next week. And then from that meeting, which I do not have a date for yet, excuse me, I will work with Sherry to find out what that is. That's where the elections happen to go to the state general committee.
Sorry, that should say general.
Yeah.
But it will be within 90 days of November 3rd. So that gives us a window.
Yeah.
Thank you, Pat.
Yeah.
Thank
Okay. Very good.
And then
And it will be on Zoom.
yeah. And then we threw in the national committee representatives. Those are the 2 people that we talked about several slides back, who are our representatives on the Democratic National Committee, the DNC. The state committee elects them. And so that's why there's that little arrow going down. And again, we can talk about their role and what they do later. That's another slide.
I just felt that kind of completed it, that's our representative at the national level, but that's it. I mean, there's really, our focus is more local.
Right.
Yep.
Okay, I think that's the last